Hi, I'm Ali Day, champion Ironman. I'm back for episode 300 and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to this very special episode of the Physical Performance Show, episode 300. That's right, we made it, 300. And we could not have done it without your support, without your earbuds. Thank you, the Physical Performance Show listenership. Today's show is lovingly brought to you by Polar. Polar are the world leaders when it comes to heart rate technology and multi-sport watches. And to celebrate the 300th episode, you have a chance to win Polar's most formidable multi-sport watch to date, the Polar Vantage V2 in Polar Red. It's stunning. Alongside a Polar H10 heart rate monitor, the gold standard heart rate sensor, the total prize pack valued at a retail price of $799 Australian dollars, and Polar are giving it away to one lucky listener of the show. To enter it, simple jump over to @Physical Performance Show on Instagram, like the post, tag 2 friends, and do this by 11:59 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Monday the 13th of December. Do not miss out for this fantastic prize pack, thanks to Polar. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. As you know, each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest inspiration and information designed to help you perform at your physical best. We do this across a range of our different episodes, expert editions, interest editions, learnings catch-up episodes, coaches' corners, and featured performers. And we are going full circle with today's very special guest, Alastair Day, surf lifesaving Ironman champion, who, as many will know, was our very first guest way back in April of 2016. And Ali made another appearance on episode 100, co-sharing the microphone to look back at the first 100 episodes of the show. Now, between April 2016 and the end of 2021, a lot has changed in Alastair Day's world. Alastair has become a father to baby boy Denny, husband to wife Kel, picked up another Kelloggs Nutri-Grain Ironman Series title, added a 7th Coolangatta Gold victory to his resume, and got the monkey off his back for his breakthrough 2021 Australian Surf Lifesaving title, Ironman Crown victory. But aside from the achievements and career highs, we all know that athletes experience career lows. And you'll hear Alastair today share very candidly around the challenges that he faced as he hit his life's lowest point. Following a freak accident where he fractured both wrists for a promotional photo shoot, which left him sidelined for 16 months with question marks over his ability to ever compete at a professional Ironman level again. And just how dark did it get? Well,
yeah, started having like those, I guess, some pretty bad sort of like thoughts about jumping in my Subaru that I could see literally out the front of my house where my garage was, and just driving into a wall so I could feel something else rather than thinking about what I was thinking about and what I was feeling. So yeah, that was just a pretty, I guess, low, really low point.
So get set to enjoy this very special episode with Alastair Day, dual Kelloggs Nutri-Grain Ironman Series champion, 7 times Coolangatta Gold champion, and 2021 Australian Surf Lifesaving Ironman champion, sharing very candidly on his career highs, lows and learnings since 2016. Ali Day, welcome back to the Physical Performance Show.
Mate, thanks for having us again. It's been, I'd like to say a long time between drinks, but it feels like yesterday I was sitting here for the first one.
Well, it was April 2016.
Wow.
So that was the episode 1. You kicked off the Physical Performance Show all the way back then, and it's quite a gamble for you to give up your time on something that wasn't proven.
It obviously worked, mate. It's one of my most proudest achievements, mate. Kicking the Physical Performance Show off, episode 1. I believe we got to do episode 100 as well. Disappointed I didn't get 200, but I'll be here for the 3, the 4s, the 5s. Hopefully get the 1,000th as well one day too, mate.
1,000th. You'll be all down the track at that point. I remember the 100th.
2030.
2030, yes. There was a USADA drug test that took place that night. Maybe the first real-time drug test for a podcast episode, I'd imagine.
It'd have to be. Surely after the 300, I don't think anyone got, ASADA came in and drug tested you halfway through the podcast, did they?
I think we finished that night at 1 a.m. by the time you got out for the drug test. And we weren't going to leave the job unfinished. But, Ali, welcome back. In all seriousness, it's been a huge, several years for yourself. I listed out a few things prior to recording. You've been married to your lifetime sweetheart, Kel, down in Kiama. You've had your first child, little baby Danny, who was born
November. He's a year old now, so 5th of November, 2020.
Just turned 1 year at the time of recording. Your business, Active, has just gone from strength to strength. And then we haven't even touched on the surf life-saving accomplishments in that time. And, of course, as with any athletic career, the low lights, of which there's been some really testing times for you. So maybe we'll start with some of the highs. Most recently, 2 weekends ago, you took out your 7th Coolangatta Gold title in dominant style, and that makes you the most prolific winner of that event in history. Yeah,
it's really nice, obviously, mate, to be back on and share the space and share the mic with you, and it's really nice to reflect on, just take a pause for a moment and reflect on everything that's happened, I guess, since 2016, but obviously more importantly over the last 12 months with those things, or 24 months, those things you just listed. And there's been some really special things, but the one, I know we'll talk about it later, but when I was injured, the one race I wanted to do was that Coolangatta Gold. And obviously 2019, I missed out through injury, 2020 COVID, so the race was cancelled. So 2021, it was the one race that's been highlighted for years now that I wanted to get back and do. And really just proud of myself. So I've got a great team of people around me, and it's it's one of those things where just feel very lucky and feel very grateful I got the opportunity to go out and race and obviously win again.
And making that your 7th title, and then this year, the calendar year we're recording in, you've also taken out your first Aussie Ironman, surf lifesaving Ironman title on the beach at Maroochydore in commanding fashion. That was some victory. And you captioned your Instagram post back in April after you took that title out as the last piece of the puzzle, the one I always wanted, first individual gold medal at Aussies ever. I never thought I was good enough to win this race, so I sat back and idolised the guys who had done it before me. This was on the 29th of April, you posted that. And you had won everything up until that point, multiple Coolangatta Golds, Kelloggs Series, but that Aussie title had eluded you. But by gosh, you made a statement that day.
Probably one of my favourite days ever. Obviously, winning it was the goal, but I'd been close a handful of times before, and I had obviously someone like Shannon Eckstein there for a long period of time that who's arguably the greatest ever. By far the best person I've ever raced in our sport. I learned a lot from him. So I had, there was a bit of a log jam there. Obviously, he was at the top, so I was waiting for him to retire for me to get a chance to do well in that race. But I was more proud of myself on that day, Brad, to be honest, with how I handled the occasion and the pressure and the fear of potentially not coming away with the result that I wanted to get. I remember warming up that day, and in most warm-ups, you're nervous, but I felt really, really nervous that day. And I remember just warming up in a section on my own, not really being around too many people. All the other guys I was racing were warming up over the other side where the crowd was. So kind of worked out pretty well in my favour that I happened to be just warming up in that area. And I could feel the pressure and the nerves coming on. I could feel as though that it was like, if this is my last chance at it. If I don't win today, I'm never going to win one, sort of thing. So you got to really think neutral, think positive. And I think over the years, I just created so many stories, whether I wasn't good enough, whether I deserved it. I never raced good at Aussies. I'm only an endurance athlete. So I had all these thoughts running through my head. Would have been thousands of thoughts at that period of time. And I remember coming in from the warm-up, running up, and, I like to write a set of notes out before I race in the major races. And I ran up to my bag, put the towel over my head, and just read through a bit of my plan and strategy and just a few key words that I'd worked really hard on with the sports psychologist that I use, Lisa, and that sort of just brought me back to the moment. I got on the start line, and I think I know the word we used that year, but in particular in the lead up was all in. And I just said to myself, well, I'm going to go all in right now. It's like that, you're playing a game of poker and you just push all your cards in, all your money in at the same time. And that's what I did on that day. And as I said, I was more proud of being able to just go all in rather than, obviously the result's amazing. And winning, crossing the line's the best feeling in the world. But I was proud of myself that I was able to, in that moment, just say, yep, I'm going all in. So, just a really, really special day for me, my family. And, it was the last piece of the puzzle for us.
And contextual to that was the fact that you just cleaned up first in the Kelloggs Nutri-Grain Ironman Series history, a clean sweep of the series, which you'd done on the beach. As you return races after what we'll discuss in a moment, were some horrific injuries to your wrists and hands, you took that series out, which we'll come back to, but then you stood on that start line at Aussies and had, I guess, some pressure from what you'd just done with a clean sweep of every round of the series to take that title a few months earlier. So that would have been, I imagine you would have been feeling some level of pressure. And as you said, not now, when?
There was a lot of pressure there. Obviously, I felt like I was the most experienced in the field. The conditions suited me. I knew that I was obviously in good form from racing really, really well in the series. I had been so close a handful of times, as I mentioned before, but I had obviously a lot of good guys in front of me. So I felt like, I think that was probably, Brad, I think that was my 9th or 10th Australian Ironman final or something like that. I'd been on the podium 3 times before that. The first couple of years into my career, I didn't do too well in the Ironman final. So it was almost like now or never. And if it wasn't today, I don't know when. If it wasn't that day, I'm not sure when I would have got another opportunity. So hence, just so ecstatic that it happened. And it's a race that, I remember going to my first Aussies in 2005 and watching Nathan Smith win. And just thinking, how good would that be to win a race like that at Aussies? And for me, I started my career at 15 when you go to the Australian titles, and I was 30. I was 30. It took me 15 years to win an individual gold medal, which is pretty crazy. A lot of people are like, oh, you must have won heaps. I actually won a lot of team medals, but I'd never won a gold individual Australian national title. So it just goes to show it can take a long time, and I'm glad I waited. I could have, obviously at 15, 16, you'd trade anything to have it. But if someone had to tap me on the shoulder at 15 and said, mate, you'll miss out on these Ironman finals in the 15s, the 17s. You'll get a couple of medals in the 19s. But, it's not till the Opens till you really start to crack on a little bit. I would have said, oh, all right, I'll wait till the Open. So, just as I said, mate, just really, really bit of a cool story, I guess.
And the sports psychology input there with Lisa, your sports psych, what does that practically look like leading into a major event? She
helped me a lot, and I know we'll talk about it soon. When I was injured, she helped me get out of a real, I guess, depressed state. I suffered for a long period of time there. So it started with helping me just feel happy again. Then it went to, I guess, finding like what my why was, what my purpose was, who I was. I felt like during that time I sort of lost my identity a little bit. I didn't know really who I was or what I was doing. So she helped me through that period. But I guess to answer your question, mate, what it looks like, we catch up pretty regularly in the weeks leading into a race, and we pretty much just talk about my fears or the things that could go wrong or might go wrong. And then once we discuss that, we start coming up with a bit of a plan of simplifying things, using keywords. And I've done a lot of work over the last 2 years with her on that. So, yeah, like normally I just have a blank piece of paper and we just take notes for an hour and we just swap them over the week leading in. And I definitely remember chatting to Lisa the morning of the night before that Ironman final, because I was really pretty nervous. Didn't get a great night's sleep. But yeah, it's great being able to have her there to just bounce ideas off, and she'll just come back to me with some really wise words. So it's been awesome having her around, and I've got to credit her a lot. She's a big part of why I've done so well.
And then, Ali, going back to, you already had a Nutri-Grain, or Kelloggs, I should say, title to your resume, but going into the 2021 season, you hadn't raced an Ironman event, I believe, for about 16 months or so at that time due to your injuries. And maybe we go there now and then we'll talk about what happened in that series, that return series, which is, in the sports that I've observed over the years, one of the greatest performances I've seen to be able to dominate like you did back to back in a sport that's at times unpredictable. But mate, can you take us back to what happened with your injuries? It's in the public domain now. There were sensitivities around it for a period of time, but obviously it's in the public domain. The Sydney Morning Herald, Ian Payton, wrote a great article ahead of you returning to the series. It was 11 months ago that it was published, December 2020. And it was titled "The Freak Accident That Wiped Out Australia's Top Ironman." So what happened?
It's I guess a good story. I can look back on it now and know that, yeah, things happen for a reason. But yeah, I think it was July 2019. I was getting ready it was in off season, obviously, or pre-season. And I was at a photo shoot for an upcoming event that Surf Life Saving were trying to put on called Iron X, which is a mix between Ninja Warrior and an Ironman event. I thought it would be, I kind of got stuck, I guess, in between two minds with it, Brad, because being a traditionalist, loving the Ironman series and obviously loving the Coolangatta Gold, I love doing those races, and I wanted to make sure that obviously Surf Life Saving were putting those at the top of the pecking order. There was this excitement, with Iron X and me potentially being quite good at and helping try grow the sport. So there was kind of two different parties, two different sides there, and I guess I went along, Brad, because I wanted to try to do the right thing and I guess at the end of the day try to police people, which I've come to learn that's probably not the best thing to do. You got to really try do what's right for you, and it's okay to do that from time to time as long as you do it in the right way. So I think that day I got caught out. I went up there, as I said, I was with a good mate, TJ Hendy, thankfully, and yeah, doing a photo shoot. Slipped off a set of monkey bars, fell down, landed on both my wrists. Thank God it wasn't my head or my neck or anything like that. And yeah, looked at them, thought, oh no, that doesn't seem too right, the way they looked. Hobbled up, and then obviously the shock started to set in. I noticed that they weren't sort of going back into place. They were bent like U-shapes. Thankfully no bones or anything was sticking out. And then, yeah, went to the hospital. I clearly remember saying to the guy that was driving us, how bad do you think it is, or what do you think it is? How long do you reckon I'll be out of training for? That was my first thought. I was like, might be. He said to me, I reckon they're dislocated, Ali, and I reckon you're going to miss 2 weeks. And I remember saying a lot of swear words and saying I can't afford to miss 2 weeks. I've got the Coolangatta Gold in October, and this was being July. So we got to the hospital. I remember hobbling up to the triage. I couldn't lift my arms by that point, and the nurse just took one look at me and goes, "Oh, you're going to be in for a long trot sort of thing." And I was like, I don't know what the hell that means, but anyway, they sat me on a bed, and they, by that point, gave me some painkillers, and they just pretty much said you're gonna need surgery. And thankfully, that's where I've got people like you, mate, and I've got people like Hal Rice as well that the powers above sort of really looked after me and made sure from that point I had the best surgeon, the best hand therapist. I had literally the best chance at getting back. So that was probably one of the worst nights, I think, of my life when, and I know that a lot of people go through, a lot of worse off stuff, but for me, I've had a pretty sheltered sort of Ironman career, and as a child growing up, like, I've been blessed with the family and the things that I've had in my life. So when I say that, I really sort of mean it. Like, it was really tough just laying there in a hospital bed with my wrists sort of like, up like this, aching, I think it was like 11 or 12 o'clock at night when everyone sort of left, and I just was left there going, what the hell am I going to do now? Like, this is my job, this is my career. I just recently gotten married. I just recently won the Ironman Series. Like, I had all this good stuff in the pipeline that was going to happen, and then all of a sudden, they all sort of came crashing down. So I'm not sure how much you want me to go into it, Brad, like after, the surgery and things like that. But I'm happy to talk or share about anything about it.
Well, I mean, that was the practical side of it. You had a fall, bilateral reverse Colles fractures. I think the orthopedic surgery was both sides, and 28 bits of metal work.
Real Ironman now, aren't I?
But the practical side is your hands and arms are your sport. Of course, there's running involved as well, but everything from holding a board, rolling under waves, to gripping a ski, to generating force with a swim stroke. It's a very upper body dominant sport. So I think that's the practical considerations. Apart from the pain and the disappointment and the shock, the uncertainty that you must have been feeling from the moment it happened, starting to get a handle on how nasty the injuries were. It wasn't just they were dislocated, but they were also multiple fractures. How did you deal with that early uncertainty? Because you weren't able to do anything for 2 or 3 months, like from all the practical activities of daily living that, from cleaning your teeth to going to the bathroom, it was all relying on being assisted. Yeah,
it was, as I said, I didn't really understand the full extent of it until a few days later, probably even post-surgery, because you're just in shock. So that night when I was laying there in bed, like Kel left me with my phone. I couldn't use my phone. I remember the nurses coming in, hey, can I grab something to eat? And I remember thinking, should be able to eat or even go to the bathroom. But I remember just not being able to do those three simple tasks. Use my phone to text Kel, eat, or even like go to the bathroom, like without like assistance sort of thing. Because at that point in time, obviously I should go back. They put the wrist back into place. So I don't know how they do that. It makes me feel a bit queasy when you think about that. So I had these big casts on until I had surgery a few days later. And with the cast, you literally can't move your hands at all. And I remember them being, up past my elbow sort of thing, up to my fingers. So it wasn't until I think I did it on the Friday, I went home on the Saturday. It probably wasn't until like the Tuesday where it really set in. I actually remember sending you a text, Brad, of my swollen fingers saying, is this normal sort of thing? But all the blood was just, pulsating to the top of my fingers. They looked like sausages sort of thing. So it wasn't until I reckon the Tuesday or the Wednesday when I woke up from surgery that I realised this is going to be a lot harder than what I thought it was going to be. I'd broken bones before when I was a kid. They whack a fiberglass cast on. I literally just thought that's what they'd do for both of those, and I'd be able to start training in a couple of weeks' time. But obviously, when I woke up from surgery, the amount of pain obviously I was in, and just not being able to do those tasks was pretty frustrating. Like getting home, can't brush your teeth, can't get dressed, can't go to the bathroom, can't make food, can't open doors, can't drive, everything. But as I said, I know a lot of people go through a lot of worse off stuff in their life and careers. So mine was really bad, obviously, for that period of time. But as I said before, I was really lucky that I had someone like Carla Bingham, who was my hand therapist, and Michael Camalaris, that was the surgeon that sort of like did a brilliant job. And I've got great relationships with both those guys now, and I wouldn't have had the results, and I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for both of those guys. So it took me a while, Brad. I know that was a long-winded answer, but it took me a while to sort of get my head around it. And obviously once I did, that's when I realised that it was going to be a pretty long road back to recovery.
And the practical side of rehabilitation, your hand therapist, Carla Bingham, well-known hand therapist here in southeast Queensland, It was daily, I believe, for several months or thereabouts.
Yeah, Kel was able to get 2 weeks off work, which was really good. So she was able to drive me every day. And obviously, when you do one, you do less. You don't have to do as much work. But when you got both, I asked Carla, I remember, did you get this much? And she sort of said, you get it every now and then, but not that much. So it's pretty crazy to think about now, Brad, but just going into Carla's and having, she'd work on one, tape it back up, work on the other, and just sort of go back and forth sort of thing. My right one was a lot worse than my left one. I cracked the joint in the right one, had a full arthroscope on that one as well, and it tore the cartilage in both the wrists, but on the right one mainly was my dominant hand. It was my worst one, and it took a lot more work than the left one. But yeah, going out there, as I said, Kel had the first couple of weeks off, and then she went back to work, and I was catching an Uber from my place in Miami out to Robina every day, seeing Carla. I think I did Monday, Tuesday. I had Wednesdays off and went Thursday, Friday. So I spent a lot of time with Carla. We got to know each other really well, and as I said, someone upstairs must be looking after me, because I was very lucky with the person I got that was able to help me.
Pain-wise, through that, you're still experiencing a fair degree of pain.
Yeah, 100%. There was the pain of obviously like the physical pain of not being able to, or the achiness and just trying to even touch your fingers together like that, or even to whatever it was, just the littlest movements hurt to do, but they got better. I think, to be honest, Brad, it was the mental pain after 3 to 4 weeks, and I know we'll probably talk about it, was by far the hardest thing, because life goes fast, everyone moves on. Kel went back to work, and you have to, I guess, start learning to live with what you've got, and then also you've got so much time where you're on your own to think about, what should I have done? Or maybe I shouldn't have been up at the photo shoot. Maybe I should have been doing this. What happens if this happened? So, throughout that period of time, I wasn't sleeping very well, and I wasn't coping very well at all. So, that was probably more so the mental anguish that I went through rather than the physical pain. Started with the physical and then went to, obviously, the mental, which I just didn't see coming.
And when you say mental pain, do you mean the uncertainty, the anxieties, the anguish? What would you say the mental pain was? Yeah,
it was everything, all the above there. It was the frustration of not being able to do anything, the frustration of why was it me, the uncertainty of will I ever get to go back and be able to just be an Ironman again? Will I be happy again? My identity was Ali Day, the Ironman, and that's who I thought everyone knew me and loved me and liked me for. And I felt like that had been taken away, and I felt like, well, that's the only thing in life that I'm good at. So what the hell am I going to do now? Do you know what I mean? So you can be pretty harsh on yourself as an athlete and as a human being. So you can imagine where your mind goes, sort of thing. And frustration, anger, anxiety. I remember, a lot of people ringing me and texting me at that time, or asking me to go do stuff. And that was probably my first experience of what anxiety was. I remember bumping into people down the street or up the beach. I remember walking up to them and trembling, shaking sort of thing, because I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want anyone to see me. So throughout that time, a lot of people reached out to ask, see how I was doing, but I sort of rejected it in a way. I sort of didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to go to the gym or active. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me or anything like that. And I guess that's where, I started having those, I guess, some pretty bad sort of thoughts about, jumping in my Subaru that I could see literally out the front of my house where my garage was, and just driving into a wall so I could feel something else rather than thinking about what I was thinking about and what I was feeling. So, that was just a pretty, I guess, really low point. And then there was a few times there where Kel just said to me, you need to talk to someone. And that's how Lisa and I got back together about, I guess, at the 3-month period or the 10-week period or whatever it was. I think it was in October, right around when the Coolangatta Gold was on. That's when I hit my lowest point, I reckon. So those first 3 to 4 weeks, everything's positive. You can see progress. But I think around that 10-week mark, I was just completely over it by then. I'd given up sort of, I knew that I wasn't going to be racing. I knew that I'd be sitting on the sidelines for a long period of time. There was the uncertainty of even getting to race again, and also like potentially having more surgery and things like that. I was over getting Ubers everywhere. I was over not being able to drive. I was over going to the surgeon and him saying to me, no, we've got to rest, or seeing Carla and saying, no, we've got to hold up a little bit. We've gone backwards a little bit. So there were so many things that I was just like, oh, I just can't be bothered to do this. I still remember so many times going up to Carla's in the elevator and just pushing the button and just being like, oh, can't believe like this is just Groundhog Day. This is just so slow to get back to where I wanted to be. But yeah, I guess that's a bit of a ramble, mate, of where my head was at that period of time. So it's, as I said before, it's nice now to sort of like talk about it, because it's really special for me to see how far I've actually come.
And we're going to bring it back to you standing on your on the beach for your first return race. But this show, we themed the highs, lows and learnings, and clearly you've touched on some pretty dark days there. It was the darkest day, like you said, you were sitting there thinking about driving the car into the wall, as in suicidal thought, or was that more like I just want to produce something other than this stalemate that I'm experiencing?
Yeah, a bit of both, and that's probably like, as I said, I was like, I can't believe that looking around, I've got everything. You know what I mean? I've got a beautiful wife, a house, a car. Like I've got literally everything at my disposal, and everything. I've got the medals and trophies on the wall. I've got money. I've got everything that anyone would possibly need, sort of thing. So yeah, like driving or doing something else to just take that pain away, or just stop it for a moment was how I was sort of thinking. Definitely the lowest point. Kel and I had a couple of arguments about it, because I was just like, you're at the point where you just don't know what to sort of do, I guess. So yeah, as I said, I think it was like a Friday afternoon or night, and I just called Lisa, and I hadn't spoken to Lisa in a few years. She actually helped me back in 2013, the year I came back, or had a year off then, and she helped me get back into racing, and I went on that year to win the series. So I hadn't spoken to Lisa for 3 or 4 years, and it was sort of like we call it the 11th or 13th hour, whatever they call 11th hour, and called her. She was on her way back from Brisbane, and just said, I just need to talk to someone. So I don't think she even said a word. I just spoke to her for 30 minutes and just told her all this sort of stuff. And around that sort of time, I was able to start driving again, and she was living on the Sunshine Coast at that stage. So every Friday for a couple of months, I just would drive up there, see her, spend a couple of hours with her, drive home, and it ended up just being one of my favourite days, to be honest. I love seeing her, and it was awesome to drive up there and just have that freedom again of getting in the car and switching off. And by that stage, yeah, like there was a lot of tough conversations that we had together, and she started to just really, really help me on my way back to just not even being an Ironman again, just to being happy again and just being okay with it again. Because there was definitely moments, Brad, where that's all I wanted to be. I just wanted to be normal, happy again, wanted to be injury-free again. I didn't even really care about Ironman racing anymore. I was just like, oh, well, if I don't get to do that again, I was okay with it. I was more okay. I was more just wanting to just be, just find myself and be happy again. So she was able to really help me, like, just get back to square one, which was really cool.
You're listening to Ali Day, Australian Ironman, World Ironman champion, and 7 times Coolangatta Gold winner on this very special episode of the Physical Performance Show, episode 300. Support for today's show comes from Polar. Polar have an incredible heritage. Headquartered in Finland, they have been the global driving force behind scientific wearables for over 40 years. They are the pioneers in and the world leaders in heart rate measurement technology. Their products provide you with 24/7 monitoring to enable you to plan better, train smarter, and recover fully. I caught up recently with Kylie Glover, Managing Director of Polar Australia and New Zealand, who had a celebratory message for both the show and the listenership.
Thanks, Brad. Hey, congratulations to you and the whole team at the Physical Performance Show for your 300th episode. It really is quite a feat. Over the past 5 years, the Physical Performance Show has become a benchmark of high performance, inspiration, guidance, and knowledge. These are all things that we here at Polar strive for, and we're so proud to be partnering with the show. The podcast really has a unique way of uncovering the human stories behind superhuman feats. So thank you, Brad, for facilitating and sharing these stories. Now, on the show, we often hear about the role of recovery and being able to consistently perform at our best, whether that be athletic performance or even the endurance involved in recording 300 podcasts. Here at Polar, we know recovery is vital, and that's why it is an integral metric across our products. As the world leader in heart rate monitoring and athlete performance technology, Polar puts over 4 decades of sports science expertise into our recovery features. And one of our favorites is Nightly Recharge, which provides you with a simple score to tell you how well your body recovered overnight. In addition to comprehensive sleep tracking, Nightly Recharge gives you heart rate variability, which gives you an idea of how well your autonomic nervous system has recovered from the training as well as everyday stress from the day before. When you know how to recover optimally, you have the confidence that you can go the distance, much like the Physical Performance Show. If you want to know more about Nightly Recharge, head over to polar.com. And as a bonus, for a limited time, we're offering 15% off selected products. So if it's time for you to upgrade your heart rate monitor or sports watch, head over to polar.com and use the code TPPS to get your special discount.
Kylie and team, thank you for your support of the show. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest on this very special episode, Ali Day, recapping on career highs, lows and learn-ins since episode 1, April 2016. In the the Sydney Morning Herald article there by Ian Payton, you commented there were times when mentally I questioned whether I wanted to do it, Ironman, anymore, and also whether I'd be able to. I had days when I looked at my hands and thought, how am I ever going to get back to Ironman racing again? What were those first steps like? Starting back in I believe, Tallabudgera Creek, you went for your first little swim.
Yeah. I remember Carla saying, you can go for a swim at the creek. You can do a couple of minutes down there swimming, and then she said you can go to the pool. All these sort of things started happening around the same time, Brad, like first being able to drive again, first being able to swim again, around that period of time as well. That's when, I'd started seeing Lisa as well. So there was some really positive things started to happen towards the back end of 2019, which was really cool. And yeah, those first memories of swimming, I think it was, as a kid that did sport since he was 5 years old, it was the longest period of time I'd never been in the ocean, never swam a lap in the pool, which you'd find crazy. The longest period of time I'm out of the water is maybe a couple of days. I was out of the water for a couple of months. So just being able to, not have any casts on my hands and dive in the water, and that feeling of, it felt crazy, but that feeling of my hands pulling through the water and at least going, under a couple of, not waves, I wasn't allowed to go on the surf, but just swimming at Tally Creek was incredible. And then, things went from strength to strength, not too quickly. It started with, I think Carla said I can do, it was like 3 laps of the pool or something like that. And then the next week you could do 4 and then 5, and then it was 10, and you could do 10 twice, and then it was, I got to half a K, and there was just all these like little increments that I started to really like tick off and look forward to. And and then obviously paddling with Zane Hamill. Zano, my coach at Surfers Paradise, was there from the get-go as well. He, would pick my board, pick my ski up, and those feelings of paddling in Tally Creek together, we still reminisce about now, because I remember like picking up a paddle, it just felt so different after picking one up like months and months earlier and having so much strength to then picking one up and it just feeling so different again. So having Zano there, and as I said before, the team of people I had around me and Lisa and everyone like that really started to there's some really positive stuff started to happen. But
no doubt there were the bumps. It wasn't just a linear progression. There were times when you overdid it. Probably got sore in the wrist, had to step back. That must have been frustrating when at that point you had a bit of momentum and I guess early belief coming back.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a lot. There was heaps where that you'd go see Carla or go see Michael the surgeon, or I knew that I'd overdone it one day and they were sore, and it was just like, just hurry up and let me out of the cage. I'm ready to go again, sort of thing. And I think it came back to, I started to get that belief and confidence back in myself. I realised that people loved me in my life, no matter who I was. It wasn't about being an Ironman or winning races or anything like that. People, my family, my friends, all my mates, my sponsors that I have, the people that I have around me, people like yourself, that I didn't have to go and be an Ironman for you guys to like me. So as soon as I shed that and let go of all that pressure, things started to really, be positive around me. I started getting on a bit of an up and I was on a bit more of a high, but there was definitely times where, as I said, you drive up to the surgeons and the surgeon would sort of say, might have some certain more, it's not looking good, we'll get some more scans, just hold up, put your cast back on, do this, do that. So there was a lot of uncertainty there still, but as I said, I was on a bit of an up as well.
How many months did it take before you were at the point of being race fit again? Because this has taken you now into the 2020 calendar year, which the world all recognises as a very messy year, with COVID kicking off at the start of that year. And then you were due to be on the start line late 2020, early 2021, so 12 months' time. At what point of that 2020 COVID calendar year did you feel like, I can actually get back to racing, not just being happy one or two, able to do sport again, but actually compete?
Yeah, I think it was probably around July, August, where I started getting a lot more confidence back in myself. I could really feel as though that I was getting stronger again. And I really believe the break did me the world of good too. It brought me, gave me time to think about how I wanted to approach the sport. It gave me time to figure out, while I was doing the sport, what I wanted to do outside of the sport and after sport as well. So I am really lucky, now I look back, I got that time. But yeah, I'd say around that July, August sort of thing where I started to get the confidence back, the fire in the belly that was there, and you could sort of see in my body size and shape that you could see that I was getting back to where I once was, which was a bloody awesome feeling.
And you were preparing in the hope and anticipation that a normal season would kick off with the Coolangatta Gold in October 2020, but obviously that was cancelled with, in Australia, borders closed and everything else going on with COVID. So you were back, you were fit, you were ready to go, you had a point to prove.
It was tough. That was definitely tough, because that's where I really felt like it really felt like I was getting my confidence and strength back. It's the race that I had to miss. It's the race I love so much. And it was probably it's funny, Brad, because I'd gotten so good at just letting things be, and, things happen for a reason. So when it got cancelled, it's funny, I was obviously really disappointed, but it was out of my control. There was a lot of other things happening in 2020. Everyone will look back on that year and go, geez, it was pretty crazy. So for me, I just knew that it gave me a little bit more time, if anything, to just keep working on it. And I knew during that period of time that there'd be a lot of people sort of sitting back and thinking the Ironman Series was going to be cancelled, and, Aussies won't be on and things like that. And I just, for me, I wasn't even really thinking about, I was thinking obviously about racing, but I was just so happy to be back training and being fit and healthy again. I really, not that I took that for granted, but I was just pumped to be back, feeling fit and strong again. And I was so motivated to go training every day just to get better. It wasn't even to race. I wasn't even thinking about racing. I was just thinking about that. So funny thoughts, as I said, it didn't really affect me all that much.
Coolangatta Gold was won and run, and a year later you'd be on the sand taking your 7th title. But this all takes us up to standing back for your first Ironman race, which was the Kelloggs Ironman Series, which was back on Channel 9 televised live to air, which was a big moment for the sport after not being free to air for a while. And you stood on that start line at Kingscliff, northern New South Wales, for the first round. And what happened from there? It was a pretty special several days. Yeah,
it was. I think to go back, I actually had to qualify to get in the series, and that was down at Kingscliff as well because of the border bubble. So I felt like that was a full 180 for me. I'd done the trial, back in 2009 when I first qualified. So that was the third trial that I've done. I did one out of year 12. I did the one the year after. And then obviously, because I've pre-qualified every other year for the Ironman Series, I'd never had to do one before. So put my foot on the start line down there, and I was really excited to race again, because I just felt like, well, I've got nothing to lose at all here. I've got nothing to lose. And I felt like I was just racing from a point of, like a really, really happy, positive place. It's hard to describe the feeling I was feeling, but I just had, Kel had just given birth to Danny, my son, 3 weeks before. I was coming, like, there was all these just amazing things happening in my life again. I was happy. I was fit and healthy. My family were able to come and watch me race, and that meant so much to them. It meant so much to my family and my friends and my sponsors and things like that as well. And people like you and my support team, like, they've been there for 18 months, like, helping me through it. So just to stand there and be able to say to myself, yep, nothing matters, just go out and do your best. So I ended up winning the trial, got to stand on the start line for the Ironman Series. So that felt good, qualifying my way back, like earning my way back in. And I took the same approach down at Kingscliff for round one. It was like, well, I've been out for 2 years, and I've got other things in my life now. I'm okay if things don't go my way today, but again, I'm going to go all in because I've got nothing to lose here, and went all in and ended up winning that first round, the second round, the third round, and then had a weekend off and went back 2 weeks later at Kingscliff, which is now probably my luckiest beach ever to race at, and won the next 3 rounds as well. So I should say, though, that you got to work hard to get lucky, but there was some conditions, I guess, were pretty favourable in my way down there. It wasn't too big. It was pretty flat every day. The formats, I guess, suited me, and I guess I was at that really ripe age of, like I'd done 11 years by then in the Ironman Series. So I had that experience. I think the only other competitor as experienced as me was someone like Pooley. So you take a lot of confidence out of standing on the start line, knowing that I've done it before. So I was, again, just happy to be back there.
You said you got to work hard to get lucky. How hard were you working before you stood on that start line? The thing that stands out to me from those races where you clean sweep round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 was your swim leg, amongst obviously board ski runs, but your swimming was just another level. How hard were you working? Were you working harder than you had it ever before, or were you the same level of preparation, or under what you'd done before?
Yeah, I think as an athlete you get 0.001 better sort of thing, but an area is the swim is always an area that I like to work extremely hard on. I've had great coaches in the pool over the years. So, Brett Carter was coaching me at the start of that season, I believe, and then he went off and I ended up swimming under Kyle Samuelson at Bond Uni, who have been there. He's been coaching me ever since. And yeah, obviously, like, I had great coaching, I had great training partners. I had this belief, not even this belief, I had this work ethic that had sort of, like, I guess it'd been there forever, but there had this feeling of I'm just not going to leave a stone unturned, because if I'm going to get a chance again, I'm going to take it and grab it with both hands. So when I got the opportunity, it's like a caged animal. Once I was allowed once Carla and Michael let me out of the cage, I'd had 18 months to think about how I wanted to approach things. So when I was ready to go, I wanted to make sure that I was ready to go. So yeah, I mean, I worked really hard with the team of people I have around me, and yeah, it was just a really special moment. I can't believe that happened.
What was going through your head, though, as you clocked up each round? Round 1, okay, done. Cool, nice to be back. I know I'm competitive again. Then round 2.
Yeah, mate, I don't know what I was thinking. Hey, it was process. I know that sounds really cliche, but it was like, okay, let's get off to a good start round 1. Round 2 came around. I just approached it the same as round 1, pretended it was round 1 again, and round 3 was like, let's just finish the weekend off well and set yourself up for a series win here. And then once the next weekend started again, I guess the added pressure started to come on. It was like, well, geez, can he win 4, 5 and 6? I won 4. Round 5 came around. I was like, geez, surely I can't keep winning. I won round 5, and then I was probably more nervous about round 6, to be honest, because the series was still pretty close at that point, and I mean, anything can happen in surf and in our sport. So I've seen it happen all too many times before. So I think the trick was just not to be complacent and just keep doing the basics really well and not steering away from what you were doing. So I didn't need to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. It was more just about just turning up and believing in myself and enjoying it again. So I had this great opportunity on that Sunday morning to turn up and, I just said to myself, Lisa just said, just get off the beach well, and first 10 strokes, focus on that, don't focus on anything else. And then when that last race rolled around, it was swim first, and I just thought, yep, all in again. I'll just go as hard as I can for the swim. Picked up a little wave, and the rest is sort of history.
Was that the cue you were using that weekend, all in?
I think it was, that and trust. Just trust it, trust. And I could go back in my notes and look at it, but I mean, at that point, it was to even just be racing, Brad, was awesome. To look back at my phone, and I think Kel, my wife, made a video of all my rehab and things like that I'd done over those 18 months and put it together and showed me and things like that. And that obviously just didn't motivate me or fire me up. It just made me realise that how good this opportunity was to just race again. So as I said, I just had nothing to prove, which was a really nice feeling to be on the start line with.
And it was a comeback for the ages and one of the greatest, I'd say, in Australian sport, if the context is understood. And I recall you sharing a moment that was special to you when former winner of the series, Shannon Eckstein, I believe, sent you a message which, those that know Shannon, he's not a man of a lot of words necessarily, but he sent you a message which I know meant a lot to you.
I guess with Shannon, like if I'm asked like who the hardest person to race is, who do you model yourself off, who do you look up to, sort of thing, it was always him, I guess. Like when I first started the sport, I wanted to get into it. I watched it on TV. I always loved I loved Wes Berg because he was from down the South Coast. I loved Zane Holmes because he was this rival to Shannon, and I loved Kai Hurst because, I mean, it was Kai Hurst. How could you not like him? It was Killer Kai. And then I didn't really know that much about Shannon. And then, when I started racing him and getting to know him a little bit better, not that we were like super close mates or anything like that, but I just watched him from a very close distance in races, in warm-ups, in preparation, and I just took mental notes every time he did things and went back through, a lot of YouTube clips, and the same with his brother as well, and just watched how they approached things. I loved how hard they worked. I loved everything really about them. I loved how professional they were. I mean, I saw Shannon coming here every day, not every day, but I would often cross paths and appointments and things like that, and I'd still have to pinch myself to be like, shit, that's Shannon Eckstein right there. Like he's the guy that I wanted to be. To hear from him after the races and things like that, and in particular after the series, people sent me articles of some of the quotes that he said in the paper that meant a lot. It was almost like, I think I've said it to you, Brad, and I've definitely said it to my wife and to Zano, that almost just wanted to have their respect, like the brothers' respect. And I feel like, not speaking for them, I felt like I got that. And as I said, hopefully there's some kids out there now, like, modelling themselves off me and how I approach things. But it's cool to hear from Shannon.
You're listening to Ali Day, Surf Lifesaving Ironman Champion, on this very special episode 300 of the Physical Performance Show. Now, I caught up recently with Andy Blow, co-founder of Precision Hydration, who shared around Precision Hydration's ongoing work to help athletes across the planet ensure that they achieve their physical best via knowing their 3 levers of fueling and hydration.
Yeah, Brad, it's been a great project this last year, because what athletes want to know is how much fluid, how much sodium, how much carbohydrate they need to take in per hour. And we know from all the studies we've done, we know from all the scientific evidence out there that those numbers are quite varied between individuals. So what we've been working hard to do is pull together a bunch of case studies for athletes across a range of endurance sports, triathlon, running, cycling, swimming, to see how much fluid, how much sodium, how much carbohydrate are people taking in per hour, and then how successful they've been in their events. And the idea with these case studies isn't that they're up there for people to copy, but they're to get your head around the numbers that might work for you and to give you a platform to build on. And then in conjunction with the tools that we've got on the website, like the online sweat test, the quick carb calculator, you can dive in and use those tools to get your numbers sorted out and start that trial and error process to see how much, fluid, how much sodium, how much carb is going to work for you when you're out there competing in the summer heat.
Thank you, Andy. Do take advantage of Precision Hydration's generous offer up to 15% off your first order of electrolytes or their all-new fuel range. Use the code TPPS over at checkout, precisionhydration.com. While there, also be sure to take the quick carb calculator and the free online sweat test. Today's episode is also brought to you by Amp Human and Momentous, building the future of human performance. Amp Human, creators of PR Lotion and Momentous, the cleanest, safest sports nutrition company, are merging together to build the future of human performance. PR Lotion is designed to maximize your training and recovery by unlocking bicarb, a natural electrolyte that improves muscle function and helps you combat fatigue during hard workouts. PR Lotion is used by some of the planet's best endurance athletes. Train, compete, repeat with Amp Human PR Lotion. Now, as a special offer for the Physical Performance Show listenership, you can save 25% when you buy from Amp Human over at the Bike Exchange brand store. Simply use the coupon code TPPS25, TPPS25 to get 25% off your Amp Human PR Lotion. For now, let's jump back with Ali Day, Surf Life Saving Ironman champion, on this episode 300 of the Physical Performance Show. Ali, we're going to do a performance round because across episode 1 and 100, you've evaded that. We didn't have the performance round back for episode 1, so that's coming your way. But must ask, this has been a great insight into really mental resilience, and it's a big word and an umbrella term, but what would be Ali Day's top 3 tips for mental resilience?
Mental resilience. Yeah, that is a good question, mate. Yeah, I think there's a few things that I could say. Like the first thing I use every day is and I don't know if I'm answering this correctly, but the first thing I do each night is I use a diary called the Resilience Project, where you journal every day, and that sort of helps with gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness. And I felt like that really helps with my resilience every day. Another thing that I've been doing lately is just trying to win every second of the day, or win every. I had heard Craig Alexander actually say it on a podcast, and when he was at Kona, and actually used it on the weekend of the Gold. He would say to himself in Kona, just try to win every second or win every moment, sort of thing. So again, it's not against the competitor; it's against your mind. So I feel like you can win every moment somewhere along the way. So I feel like that really helps build your resilience. And the third would be waking up early. Waking up early is something that I've done since I was 6 or 7 years old, getting up for swimming training and things like that. I think that's another thing that helps me build resilience.
And being unstoppable.
Exactly, yeah.
So, Ali, they were journal, 2, win every second of the day / moment. And is that in a racing context, or is that day-to-day as well?
I'd say day-to-day. Yeah, obviously it's a racing context as well, but I'd say day-to-day. So whether that's waking up, making your bed, being on time, being organised, whatever it might be, just trying to win every moment of the day that you can. And I feel like that helps build resilience.
And getting up early, getting that momentum.
Win the morning, win the day.
Win the morning, win the day. Ali, are you ready for the performance round? Rapid fire questions.
Yep. No time to think. Is that the rules?
Correct. Training session most disliked?
None. Love all training.
Training session most loved?
Short rest in the pool, or just anything endurance-wise.
Any sessions in particular?
Love long ski paddles. I'm sitting on the fence here. Yeah, just probably I really enjoy those long swim and long ski sessions.
Pre-race meal?
Always a steak and veggies the night before, mate. Pretty basic.
Bedtime, morning time?
Bedtime 8:30, morning time 4:30.
Who's the athlete Ali Day most admires and why?
There's so many. I know that you and I, Brad, often talk about a lot, but you could almost pick one in every sport, sit here all day. But obviously Shannon and Kane, recently probably Kane, just because of the gold and things like that. It's really special that he sort of inspired me. So if I can pick him for that sport, and the other one I really like is Tom Brady from the NFL, playing for the Buccaneers now. I just love his ability to just get better and better.
That was Kane Eckstein and Tom Brady. Toughest competitor Ali Day's ever raced against? Who's that and why?
Toughest would be Kendrick Louis. We grew up together. We raced the whole way through juniors together. He brings the best out of me. I think I bring the best out in him. So we love racing one another.
Is there a mantra that you'd regularly use when racing or competing? You've already mentioned all in.
Just trust. Trust would be the biggest thing for me.
Trust in?
Just trust in the process. Trust in what the work you've done. Trust in yourself, and trust everything will be okay.
Best recovery tip?
Sleep.
Worst injury?
Worst injury would probably be, obviously the wrist. But I've got a pretty good physio mate sitting across from me that's had to deal with a fair few of mine over the years, so lucky.
One word to describe your racing style?
One word would probably be, I'd just say maybe fit. Yeah, I'm just fit.
How would you describe being in the zone?
How would I describe being in the zone? Things are happening around you, but everything around you is happening fast, but in your mind, everything is like happening really slow. If that makes sense.
When was the last time you were in the zone?
2 weeks ago on Sunday.
And what part of that, just under 4 hours, what part of that 4 hour race did you start to feel like you're in that?
Probably you really start to feel it at the end of that swim, but in the board, that's when I really sort of start to, you can feel that I'm tapping into that, and everything just becomes, I wouldn't say effortless, but it becomes very, the momentum starts to really shift, and things become a little bit sort of, like easier. And I obviously love that feeling of the run leg as well. You just tapped in, and that's awesome. They're the moments you dream of.
And for those international listeners that may not know of the Coolangatta Gold format, just briefly.
Yeah, so the format of the Gold is 23 Ks in the ski, couple of K run, 3.5 K swim, 6 K board, 8 K run to finish on the sand. So it's it's our longest endurance event in Ironman racing.
And it's iconic up and down the beautiful Gold Coast. Last question here in the performance round, Ali. The hardest session you've ever done. We know that epic sessions don't make champions, but it's a fun question.
Hardest session. Try to think it. I did some really tough ones in the heat this year for the Gold on a Saturday. Where it's like 20K on the ski and 10K that's up at your upper threshold in the heat. Then into a pretty long swim, a board at your threshold, and then throwing the shoes on and maybe doing 10 to 12K at around like that. It was like 2K on, rest, 1K on 3 or 4 times or something like that. So sets like that, and there was a couple of sets I did in the pool where I think that Kyle gave us that were pretty painful as well. But I think for me it's consistently doing them day in and day out. So if you can do that, I feel like that's where the cream is.
You're out of the performance round, Ali. Well done. You overcome persisting Achilles tendinopathy. A lot of distance endurance athletes at some point will deal with that injury. Any tips from yourself on how to get on top of these pesky tendon injuries? What's worked for you?
I would say obviously try find someone, depending on where you live, that can sort of help you like understand that better. But I mean, a few things that I've implemented through you, Brad, is just like loading the tendon. I think for years I thought resting a tendon was the best thing to do, but actually loading a tendon is the best thing that you can do for it. Yeah, getting strong in your calves as well. So like having an actual strength training program for that. And I think what the word that you said to me, and it might be stolen from Eliud Kipchoge, but it was progress slowly but slowly. That was one of the things you wrote on a Post-it note for me one day. And the other one was, you're safe to run, or something like that. I remember putting both of those on my fridge. So just believing and trusting that the work that you're doing is going to get it better.
And as an encouragement to anyone that's feeling a bit frustrated with the persistence of these injuries, you've had a season unaffected by that now off the back of your consistency with loading it up with some key strength and conditioning work.
Yeah, it was probably the best thing that, as I said, when I got injured, it gave me time to work with you on my Achilles stuff, and that was the first time on my career in 8 to 10 years that I haven't, started the Gold with an Achilles tendon issue. So did a lot of work through that COVID period in 2020. I'm lucky that I have a gym and lucky that I had you as well, mate. So just it's amazing how quickly you can get pretty strong in your calves when you're doing the right stuff. So it's just consistency with it, though. That's the biggest thing I could say to any runner out there or anyone that's trying to get an injury, but in particular your Achilles better, take your time and work consistently at it, and it will get better.
Here. Ali, you know this, but every guest of the show gets asked 2 set questions. The first being, what is Ali Day across all your years of competition? Professional Ironman for circa 14 years now. What is your top tip to help listeners of this show perform at their physical best?
That's a good question. Top tip.
Single piece of advice.
I'd say work hard. Yeah, I know that's really, really you can take that in so many different ways, and it is quite simple, but it's just literally there's no magic exercise or program or tablet or pill or anything like that. It was just work hard. Just go and do the work, and you'll get the results off the back of that.
I recall back on episode 1, you told a story about your swim coach, Ron McKeon, down on the South Coast. You were obviously a talented athlete at that point, but by your words, you were messing around a little bit. And one afternoon, Ron said, I want you to take it serious. We're going to have a 400-metre freestyle race. And your older brother, Blair, who was always such a great swimmer, you knocked Blair off and the other people in the squad, and you took the win in that 400-metre freestyle race, South Coast of New South Wales. But you described on episode 1 that shifted your thinking.
Yeah, as I said, I mucked around a little bit. I think there was at that age as well, there was a time there where I was just going to stop doing it anyway because I wasn't getting the results. And yeah, as I said, like people like Ron and Mick and all the coaches and that stuff down at home, they sort of just pulled me aside and said, hey, you've got a fair bit of talent there. You've got a motor and a good engine, but you've got to start working hard. So that's obviously when I started showing up a bit earlier and taking a little bit more professional, and wanted to be first in, last out, and started adopting all these principles and rules, and that's sort of helped shape me as the athlete I am. So I still do. Still do all those little things that any professional would do.
You're still the first in, last out? Try to be.
It wasn't this morning at the pool. I was maybe one of the first in, but I was the first out, obviously off the back of the Gold. But I try spend the time, and I can't put my head on the pillow at night if I know that I haven't given my best that day, and I haven't, because that's my job. I've only get to do this job for a handful of more years, so I want to make the most of it, and not retire and go, geez, I wish I had done this or had done that.
Because at one point you were doing an extra kilometre of swimming on top of the session, I believe, every week on a set day.
Yeah, I used to do that on Friday. Kyle would do that, and Zane does similar stuff with me as well, and so have a lot of the coaches over the years have sort of picked up on things that you can gain an extra edge or do something a little bit different. And every athlete is different, and I get a lot of confidence out of when we do obviously those really hard sets, but I love the training on my own, and I love when it is, you're up against yourself, with your mind, in sort of a bit of a head battle. So, you get those every day. That's what I was talking about, winning those moments. And if you can win those moments when you're in those really hard sessions, that's when you're going to get a lot out of yourself. And that's, obviously when you go race a race, you can sort of draw down on that.
Physical challenge for the week, Ali Day. What is Ali's physical challenge going to be to listeners?
Physical challenge, I'd say let's keep it calf raise related, Achilles tendon related. See if you can do single leg calf raise. See if you can get 30, between 30 and 40 single leg calf raises on a metronome. So you've got to go up for 2, down for 2. So make sure they're nice and slow. Get up on your tippy toes and make sure your knees aren't bent, so keeping a straight leg. So that's one that I do every night, and it's it really helped me with my running.
You do every night to this point?
Yeah. I have in the last couple of weeks, obviously in the lead up to the Gold. I want to have fresh legs leading in. I didn't do them last week, but I'll be back on them tonight, turning the shower on to do that, and do my toe taps as well that you've prescribed as well, mate. So it's just almost putting two habits together. Like, I feel like habit stacking is a good thing. So it's like you wake up in the morning and I might do, like, I'll drink and stretch. So I'll do those two things at the same time. And of a night time, it's like, okay, I know that it's like shower, Achilles exercises in the shower, straight into journal. And that's like my nighttime sort of routine. I just have all these things throughout the day that I like to do that sort of, as I said, I don't know if that's a thing, habit stacking, but yeah.
It is now. First time I've heard it, but I've written it down. I think that's a brilliant description. Ali, you've got a lot on. I sometimes wonder how you manage to fit it all in and also do it with such grace, style and skill. Obviously, people can jump over, follow the journey at Alastair Day, your Instagram gallery, but there's also Active, ACTV, which has just gone from strength to strength in the last, how many years?
It's 4 years now. I think it's 5 next year, which is crazy to think about. And
a fantastic community of like-minded people looking to get the best out of themselves with their fitness. This weekend past, there was a budgie run for Men's Health, which how many blokes turned up?
I think it was around 250 to 350, which is awesome. So we'll get you there next year, mate.
Get some red DTs on. I'll join the challenge. And then a recent innovation, yourself and Bart's business partner have launched the Gentleman routine. Yes. I followed that this morning.
There you go. Yeah, it's the gym. The gym's going great. I've got a great business partner in Bart's. Obviously, his wife Bridget and my wife Kel are behind the scenes and do a lot of work for the gym as well. And we're hoping to, potentially get another one somewhere on the Gold Coast at some point. But yeah, we came up with an idea about 12 months ago through COVID to have a men's moisturiser that looked really cool on the shelf, but also had a really big impact on men's mental health. I know I've had my struggles. I know my business partner has as well. And we both created the gym to make sure we could look after everyone and be all inclusive. So it was a no-brainer when we came up with the idea of the moisturiser. We love that it's called the Gentleman Routine. So very soon the moisturiser will be hitting our shores in Australia. You're able to purchase it, but our app is now live, the Gentleman Routine. It's a 30-day. You can take our challenge, a 30-day challenge, and over the 30 days, it's going to make you feel healthier, happier, and a gentleman. So that little things like, calling up a mate, or it might be, showing some gratitude or empathy or mindfulness here, there. They're really simple tasks that we believe that are going to help guys with their mental health. So it's really exciting, mate. And as I said, I've got to give a shout out to Bart's, his wife Bridget, and Kel. I'm the fourth wheel there that doesn't do all that much. I feel like I pulled the other three back. So a big shout out to those three. They allow me to go out and be a professional Ironman, and they're in the background working their asses off and helping me have something in the future after I finish Ironman.
Well, Ali Day, work hard, and that's something that typifies your approach in all areas. So congratulations on a big few years, most importantly on persisting and overcoming clearly some very trying times. And thanks again for stopping by this milestone show, 300 weeks post the first episode.
There you go. Hopefully, as I said, mate, hopefully back for 4, 5, 6. Let's see where we can get to.
Ali Day, thank you.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks so much for having us on.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. It wasn't just any other episode, it was the 300th episode. I said it at the top of the show, but I really want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you who have supported the show from episode 1, April of 2016, which started with today's guest, of course, Ali Day. At the time, it was a pipe dream that people may enjoy the show, and here we are at the time of episode release with over 3.1 million downloads across more than 206 countries of this planet. So thank you. Thanks as always to the amazing team who make this show possible each and every week, who have been the same team since day one, episode 1, way back in 2016. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, Matthew Walding, our show graphic designer. Now, in recent months, we've opened the show up for support from our listeners practically via Patreon, Patreon. If you would like to support production of the show, you can do so from just $5 per month over at Patreon. Just search the Physical Performance Show. That makes a very tangible difference to our ongoing success. And in return, we'd like to say thank you by offering you complimentary access to our back catalogue of live stream events and all upcoming live stream events, normally ticketed at $49 per person. It's also our annual feedback time for the show. You can jump over to the bio link over on Instagram at Physical Performance Show, and there you can click the link to leave your brief feedback on how we can get better. There's a $50 Amazon gift card up for grabs. We'd love to hear from you over on our annual survey. A big favour to ask, if you have enjoyed the show across the 300 episodes, no matter how many shows, if you're yet to jump over and leave a review on iTunes, and you've considered doing it in the past, then if you can take a moment to drop a review, that would be incredibly appreciated. It supports the show and helps us to get this show into more earbuds of people just like you looking to perform at their physical best. Thank you in advance. Now, where do we go from episode 300? Well, we keep the highs, lows, and learnings coming your way. We have a smorgasbord of learnings for you to enjoy from. You're going to have to wait until next week. We catch up with Professor Peter Eblin, medical doctor who shares around management of the sub-50-year-old with osteoporosis and bone health for people across the lifespan. We also catch up with Jess Rothwell, National High Performance Nutrition Lead for Athletics Australia, sharing around hydration and fueling the endurance athlete in hot and humid environments. Jess assisted the Australian marathon team in the rigours of the Tokyo 2021 Olympic marathon environment. So as always, there's much to learn. Until next week, keep pursuing your physical best performance. Thank you for support of the show across the 300 episodes. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.